guys, so today I'm going to be doing a review of this book, which is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is a YA contemporary novel set in Britain, for a change, rather than America. The protagonist is a really studious girl called Frances. She's sort of like nearing the end of high school and kind of wondering what's next for her. She's really obsessed with this YouTube podcast. Her life kind of starts changing quite a bit when she meets the creator of that podcast. 3 words that I would use to sum up this book are friendship, family, and fandoms. So if you like reading about any of those things, I think you probably really will like this book. There's also no romance at the center of the plot, which is interesting because most books have like quite a high focus on romance, most contemporaries I mean. This book is kind of also quite different to anything else I've ever read. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it is very unique. And yeah, so there were a lot of things that I really liked about it and a couple things I didn't like. So that's how I'm going to structure this review. This review, by the way, is going to be spoiler free. So if you haven't read this yet, you can keep on watching without fearing any spoilers. So starting with the stuff that I did like about this book, the like teenagery stuff in this book, if you will, things like messaging and name dropping things like Facebook and ASOS and stuff like that. They were all used in a way that made the characters in this book feel really authentic. It was really true to like what actual teenagers are like. You know, sometimes you read a YA book and you're like, teenagers are not like that and they don't use that kind of text language anymore and things like that. So all those things I felt like were really done quite well. I also appreciated how realistic it was in terms of coming to the end of high school and wondering what is going to happen in your life next. It showed it as not being so straightforward. I feel like that's realistic for a lot of people. You don't necessarily know exactly what you're going to be doing when you finish high school, and things don't necessarily go to plan either. In some ways, not all the ways, but in some of the ways I found Frances's high school experience really relatable because she is such a studious girl who's really focused on doing well at school. She has friends, but they don't really know much about her aside from what she's like at school, so they kind of view her as a bit of a bore, whereas like they kind of don't realize they actually just don't know much about her. They don't know what she does when she's not at school. They don't know what her home life is like. They don't know her true personality really, just because they haven't gotten to know her that much outside of school. So I related to that to an extent, just mostly like my first like term of high school maybe. Frances also has a really fantastic, great relationship with her mum, which I thought was awesome. Her mum is really involved in Frances's life, and I just really liked their relationship, and that's something you don't see in YA that often either, like really good relationships with parents, so I think that was really nice. My absolute favourite character in this book was a side character, a boy called Alid. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I couldn't really relate to his situation exactly, but I could relate to his personality in a lot of ways, and I just really liked him. I thought he was a really cute character. I was picturing him as Gerard Way throughout this novel. I don't really know why, but that was just the image that I got in my head. Nothing to do with how he's actually described in the book, but I was just picturing Gerard Way, so there's that. And there's one quote about Alid that I could really relate to, and it goes, "Alid's voice gradually got quieter as he was speaking, almost like he didn't think I was listening to him, despite the fact that I was looking right at him." And I can relate to that because, you know, I don't know if anyone else ever experiences that, but sometimes when you're talking to people and you feel like they don't care about what you're saying, so you kind of like stop talking even though you haven't finished speaking, just because you feel like they don't really want to listen to you and you feel like you're like intruding on their time. Just found that so relatable. One of the major things that I really appreciated about this book was the fact that sexuality is addressed in such a diverse way. You know how in most books that you read, I feel like everyone is just assumed to be straight, and any characters that aren't, it's kind of obvious. In this book, you can't really assume that anyone is straight because everyone's sexuality is so diverse. It's kind of like just a natural part of who these characters are and just a part of who they are. Like their whole purpose is not to be like the gay character in this book. It's just a part of their being. It's not their like sole purpose and sole focus, which I think is really important, because there are lots of fantastic books you know, that address sexuality, but usually that is the main focus of the plot. So it's nice to get one where it's just like an inclusion, like this is just a normal part of their life, you know, not their sole focus. So bisexuality and homosexuality are both normalized in this book, and there's even a discussion of asexuality and demisexuality, which I think is a really good inclusion. Moving on to the couple of things that I didn't like about this book. There weren't many, but first of all, as much as I said it being set in Britain is somewhat more relatable for me, I actually did find the whole British school system really confusing, just because they frequently speak in terms of like which exams they're up to, like A levels or, you know, different things. I just found all of that really confusing because they wouldn't speak by what level of schooling they were in, or like what year they were in, or how old they were. They would just speak in terms of what exams they were doing at the time, and I just found it a little bit hard to put together like how much time they had left before the end of school and that kind of thing. So that was a little confusing for me, but meh. Initially, in the very beginning of this book, Frances was a really annoying protagonist. I actually really hated her, and within probably like the first few chapters I was worried about getting through this book because I thought, God, I hate this girl, I couldn't stand her. But that really did change throughout the book. I don't know why. I don't know if it was just like establishing the character very strongly in the beginning, but I just really didn't like her in the beginning. She was just very arrogant and up herself about how smart she was, but at the same time she was putting down other smart kids. Like she was the head girl at her school, and she would sort of talk down on the head boy and kind of implying that he's a bit of a try-hard and like cares too much about school and that kind of thing, but she's doing the exact same thing. So I just didn't really get that, and I just thought she comes across like a hypocrite and a bit of a dick. But that did fade away as the novel went on. So the final thing that I didn't really like about this book is that in parts of it, it came across as if Frances was writing it in the future, in retrospect kind of thing. She was looking back on all these things and reflecting on them in hindsight, like thinking what she would have done differently and that kind of thing. And I just really don't like that in a fictional story. For memoirs and things like that, that's a style that I really like, but for a fictional novel, I find it really annoying because I'm like, it just, you know, that whole, the protagonist knows something that you don't. They know what's going to happen. I think I just would have liked it more had it been written in present tense, the way that a lot of novels are. So overall, this book was really, really great, and I really, really highly recommend it if you think it sounds like something that you will like. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars overall. And that's it for this review. So if you want to follow me on Goodreads to keep up with what I'm reading and see like more reviews, that's always linked down below, as well as my Instagram and Twitter. Subscribe if you haven't already. I upload 2 days a week, and I'll see you guys in a couple days with another video. Thanks for watching. Bye.